So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the Flippity Random Name Picker tool, which is great for choosing students, setting up groups, but so many other opportunities besides just using it for student names. So on the flippity.net website, Random Name Picker is right up at the top, and you're going to see that there are 3 buttons at the bottom of this card. So if you haven't used the name picker before, I would suggest that you go into the demo and play around with it a little bit just so you know what it can do. And whenever you go to the demo for any of these tools, it's going to show you what the finished product would look like. So it's giving us this spinner wheel that has a bunch of names on it. And if I spin it, it's going to land on a name, and then also to make it a little bit easier to read, that name is going to show up there. In blue, we have a couple other different options of things that we can do. We can toggle this full screen to get rid of all of the random miscellaneous stuff. There's an information box, so if I wanted to type in instructions for what the students were supposed to do when their name gets chosen, I could have that up on the screen as we're doing this activity. And there's also a timer that you could have up here while you're still using the wheel if for some reason that was beneficial to you. So the spinner is what comes up by default, but you're going to see that there are all of these other tools that come along with the random name picker. So you have single name as an option where you just click through and students don't know which person is going to be next. You would probably want to make sure that you click the little shuffle button so that they're coming up randomly and not in order. If you do want students to kind of know when it's going to be their turn, there's a lineup so you can see whose turn it is now, and then Meryl knows that she's next and Gary is going to be after Meryl. I use this a lot for setting up groups. So if I want students to work with someone other than the partner that they normally work with, I might use this to set up groups of 2. And then if you have an odd number, for example, Spencer doesn't have a partner, I will either put him in place of one of these other students who might be absent, or just say, okay, you're going to join Marlon and Robert in group 7, groups of 3, groups of 4, groups of 5, etc. I can also use this to split the class into teams. So 2 teams, 3 teams, 4, 5, etc. I could use this to have Flippity create a random seating chart for me if I didn't want to think through that process. And then there's a More tab here where, in addition to the ones that we see, you can do groups and teams of different sizes. There's also an option for speed networking, roster, gift exchange, different kind of templates that you might use for that. And underneath that, there's also a send to option for this activity. So what that means is if you create a random name picker with your student names, you can use that same information and create one of these other tools with it. So if you wanted to make a bracket for your class, you can send it to tournament bracket, and boom, you automatically have a bracket made with that same information. So all of this can be done through this one tool, the Flippity Random Name Picker. So that's our demo. Now there is a link at the top that will take you to making your own, but I want to make sure that you know what these little buttons are on the home screen. So we use demo. Instructions is going to give you the directions for how to use this specific tool. Now with everything on Flippity, pretty much there are always 4 steps, and they are always the same 4 steps. So step 1 is going to be modify the Google spreadsheet template. Everything on Flippity starts with a Google spreadsheet, so all you need is to make sure that you have a Google account. And then the directions for this might be a little bit different depending on the type of activity you're doing. The most important part here, they have it in red: do not edit any cell with a blue background. The blue background stuff has to stay the same. You're only going to edit what's in the white cells. So once you put in your information, step 2 is you're going to publish your spreadsheet. That's what makes it actually visible in the Flippity format. If you forget to publish, you're not actually going to be able to view anything. Then you're going to get your flippity.net link. That's going to open up the actual activity, and then you want to make sure that you bookmark that link. So those are the steps. Now you can get to the template right here, but once you become familiar with this and you don't need to consult the directions every single time, you can actually just get to the template right here. So I'm going to click on template, and it is going to ask me if I would like to make a copy. Yes, that is what I want to do. So I'm going to make a copy. So you're going to see that it will just be titled copy of Flippity.net Random NamePicker template. If I use this multiple times, I would have a million things in my drive that have the same exact name. That doesn't make any sense. So we're going to say that this is for my second hour class. So I'm going to call this second hour Flippity Random Name Picker. That way I can find it easily in Drive. The template always starts with the same information that was in the demo we just viewed. So these are the blue boxes that I had mentioned. Do not mess with the blue boxes. If you change the information in here, Flippity won't be able to recognize it anymore and your tool won't work. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete the information in those white boxes, and I'm going to type in my own names. So, oops, let's put them in separate lines, shall we? So I'm going to go ahead and just put in all of the student names that I need. And once I have all of my names in, these are all of the students in my class, I have one other thing that I like to do. It's not necessary, but it is helpful. Right down here, it's just going to say Random NamePicker or whatever the name of the tool is. I always like this to kind of match whatever my title is or a simplified version. So I'm just going to click on rename. So I clicked on that little down arrow and then rename. And I'm just going to type second hour, and you'll see what that's for in a minute. So I didn't change the blue boxes. I typed in my information. I changed my name on the tab down here. It says get the link here, but I can't go there yet because I need to publish my spreadsheet first. So that's going to be our next step. Now you do see that there is a second column here for photo. If I wanted to put in a photo of the students, or if I was using this for maybe vocabulary instead of student names, I can put image files in there, but we're not going to mess with that in this video. So I'm ready to create my tool. I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to go down to Publish to the Web. And I'm going to leave all this stuff the same. Yes, the entire document. Yes, as a web page. When I click on Publish, it's going to ask me, are you sure you want to publish this selection? Yes, so I click OK. And now it's going to give me a website here, but this is not the one that I want. So I'm just going to close this window. I'm going to go over to my second tab where it says get the link here, and it's going to give me the link for the actual Random NamePicker tool. So when I click on that, then it's going to open up the tool that I created with my student names. And I have the spinner tool like we saw before, and I have all of the other tools as well. So if I wanted to use this for my groups, I can set up my groups. And quite often what I will do in class is I pull this up and I'll click on groups, and then I'll kind of give it a quick look and see, do I think all of these are actually going to work together? And if I see that there's a problem, like Ron and Hermione are not going to get anything done if I have them partnered up, then I just click on this little shuffle and it shuffles it, and then I check it over again and I'm like, okay guys, these are your groups, go find your partner, etc., etc. There's also a jigsaw tool within here, which is super awesome if you're doing jigsaw activities. So there are some other options when you're in like the group format of this. Now, here's the key. If you are using this for classes, you want to make sure that you have easy access to get back to this. You don't want to have to go into your Drive and find the spreadsheet and click on the link every time you want to come back to this. You want to bookmark this page. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click my little star to bookmark this tab, and I'm going to click on Add Bookmark, and then I always just keep this as short as possible. I'm going to call this second hour because that was the name that I used on my little tab. You're going to see here where it says second hour. That's because I put second hour at the bottom of the tab on my spreadsheet. And I actually have a folder in my bookmarks bar called classes, and that's where I keep all my class lists. So I click done, and now here I have my second hour class, and so anytime I want to get back to this, I just click that link, and that is going to take me to this basic page, and I can work from there. So I do use this a lot for essentially grouping students, but I have found some other uses for the Random Name Picker tool as well. So I'm a French teacher. We do lots of speaking practice in class, and sometimes I'll kind of like semi-structure activities for students just to practice with brand new phrases that we've been learning. So this was a Flippity that I made when we were learning permission phrases. So asking permission, giving permission, refusing permission. And so I had a little structured dialogue that students were kind of following, where one student would choose an activity, the next student would ask permission to do that activity, and then the following student would have to either give or refuse permission because those were the newest phrases we had learned. And so I would use the spinner, and the spinner would come up with the phrase that they had to use in their response. Similar to that, in another class, we were talking about health and sickness and things like that, and so students were learning how to express problems and give advice. And so one student would ask, like, how are you doing, how are you feeling, some question like that. We would use the spinner or the lineup tool to give them some type of problem. So this says I'm sneezing a lot, so then they would just have to pronounce j'éternue beaucoup, and then another student would have to respond to them with some form of advice that they would give. So there are lots of other ways that you can use this in your classes besides just choosing student names, but that's the overview of how to use the Random Name Picker tool in Flippity.